Hi, my name is Sarah. I've been married to Mark for 5 years, and until last week, I thought our marriage was perfect. But what I discovered completely changed how I see him, and myself. It all started when I noticed Mark coming home later than usual. You know how it is, at first, you brush it off. Oh, he's just busy at work, I'd tell myself. But then the little things started piling up. Small, almost invisible lipstick stains on his collar, new locks on his phone that he'd never had before, and the secretive messages that would vanish the second I walked into the room. My mind started racing, filling in the blanks with the worst possible scenarios. I felt this knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach every time he came home late or angled his phone away from me. The trust that had been the foundation of our marriage was starting to feel like it was cracking under the weight of my suspicion. The doubts grew into this monster that I couldn't ignore. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every strange moment, every quick excuse. Was I going crazy? Or was the man I loved, the man I promised to spend my life with, living a double life? I started doing things I never thought I would. Checking his pockets when he was asleep, trying to guess his phone password. I felt ashamed of my own behavior, but the fear of being betrayed was even stronger. Every late night, every whispered phone call chipped away at my sanity. I felt like a detective in my own home, searching for clues to a crime I prayed hadn't been committed. The loving, secure home we had built together suddenly felt like a stage for a play I didn't have the script for. One night, the suspense became unbearable. He came home smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine. He gave me a quick, distracted kiss and headed straight for the shower. That was it. That was my chance. With my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it over the running water, I picked up his phone. My hands were shaking as I tried a few passwords. Our anniversary, his birthday, ... nothing. Then, I remembered his old dog's name, Buddy. It worked. The phone unlocked, and my stomach dropped. There it was, a conversation with a woman named Emily. My heart sank. Reading those messages felt like a physical blow. They weren't just casual work texts, they were intimate. Filled with "be safe, I'm thinking of you, and let me know when you're settled." The words were caring, personal, and loving. Each message was a dagger to my heart. I scrolled, and the evidence just kept mounting. It was everything I had feared and more. The world around me seemed to tilt. The man I loved, the man I shared a bed with, was emotionally entangled with someone else. All the trust, all the happy memories of the past 5 years, felt like a lie. In that moment, I felt a toxic mix of white-hot anger, crushing betrayal, and a deep, confusing sorrow. Who was this Emily? And who was the man I had married? The next morning felt cold and heavy. I couldn't eat, I couldn't think straight. All I could see were those messages burned into my mind. I waited for him in the living room, rehearsing what I would say. When he came downstairs, ready for work, he must have seen the look on my face. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. That concern just fueled my anger. "Mark, who is Emily?" I asked, my voice trembling but firm. I tried so hard to stay calm, to not just scream at him. He froze. The color drained from his face, and his eyes darted away. The guilt was written all over him. He took a deep, shaky breath. "Sarah, it's not what you think," he started, his voice barely a whisper. "I can explain." The classic line. I didn't want excuses. I wanted the truth, no matter how painful. "Then explain." "Now," I demanded, my voice harder this time. The silence stretched between us, thick with tension. I braced myself for the confession, for the story of how their affair began, for all the heartbreaking details. But instead of excuses, he just said, "Come with me." He led me out to the garage, a place that was usually just his cluttered workshop. My mind was racing. What was he going to show me? As he opened the door, my breath caught in my throat. There, on the old couch we kept in the corner, sat a woman. She looked terrified, her eyes wide with fear. It was Emily. But this wasn't the scene I had imagined. This wasn't a confrontation with a confident mistress. This was something else entirely. She looked small and vulnerable, clutching a cup of tea as if it were a lifeline. My anger faltered, replaced by sheer confusion. What was going on? Then Mark started talking, and the story that unfolded shattered my world all over again, but in a completely different way. Emily had been in a horribly abusive relationship. She had finally found the courage to leave, but her ex-partner had turned into a stalker, relentlessly threatening her, showing up at her work, making her life a living nightmare. Mark, who knew her through a mutual friend, had stepped in to help. He had been her lifeline, her protector. He was helping her find a safe place to stay, giving her money for food, and making sure she was okay. He was doing it all in secret. The messages I had seen, the ones that tore me apart, they weren't romantic. They were instructions. Be safe meant, lock the doors. Thinking of you was his way of letting her know she was not alone in her fear. Let me know when you resettled. Was a check-in to make sure she had made it to the shelter for the night without being followed. Every secretive phone call, every late-night tit was all part of his desperate effort to keep this terrified woman safe from a dangerous man. I had built this entire narrative of betrayal in my head, and the truth was so far from it, it was breathtaking. I just stood there, speechless. The anger that had been boiling inside me evaporated, replaced by a wave of relief so powerful my knees felt weak. But that relief was immediately followed by a crushing guilt. I had accused him, judged him, and believed the absolute worst of the kindest man I've ever known. He hadn't been betraying our love. He had been embodying it in its purest form by protecting someone in desperate need. My suspicion felt so small, so selfish in the face of his quiet heroism, all washed over me. This was the man I married. The man who would run into a fire for a stranger. Who would risk being misunderstood by the person he loved most to do the right thing. I looked from Emily's grateful, tear-filled eyes to Mark's tired but steady face. He turned to me, his expression soft and full of understanding, not a hint of "I told you so." He said, "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't risk it. Her ex is unstable. If he knew you were involved, he might have come after you. I couldn't put you or her in that kind of danger. Sometimes, protecting the people you love means keeping secrets, even from each other." His words hit me right in the heart. I wrapped my arms around him and held on tight, burying my face in his chest. In that moment, I wasn't just hugging my husband, I was embracing a profound lesson. I had always thought trust meant total transparency, knowing every single detail of each other's lives. But I was wrong. That night, I learned that real trust isn't about having all the answers. It's about having faith in the person's character. Believing in their good intentions even when you can't see the full picture. It's about trusting their heart. Our marriage didn't just survive this, it became stronger, deeper, and more real than I ever imagined. So, what do you think? Is trust about knowing everything, or is it about believing in the person you love, even in the dark? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.